Hello guys on YouTube, we're gonna do a quick video here. Um, Real basic video. So you guys have a video today. You're gonna get tomorrow's vlog tomorrow. Today's vlog tomorrow. Like regular YouTubers do it, so I can do it in the morning and have it for you by lunchtime or dinner time, depending on how things go. Okay, we're gonna talk about I'm releasing a video called BIOS. Now, BIOS will be about me. Um, Actually, this is the BIOS video. We're gonna talk a little bit about my life, how long I've been doing YouTube off and on, with multiple channels, and stuff like that, because that's important to my YouTube career and such. Okay, I had a YouTube video called All About My 13. It was ALABOUT my 13. And the reason why I was doing that is because it was all about me. So I did all about my, because it was about my, because me was taken. So it was about my life, and I was 13 at the time. 12, 13 at the time. And so I started YouTube there. I did that back, and a while ago. If you want to search all about my 13, those are my older videos. Those are actually managed by my mom now because her email is attached to that one. I don't use that one anymore because it's an older part of my life, and I revamped the whole channel and stuff like that, and didn't remember the password, and her email was attached to it, so I didn't really do anything as far as that. So I made a Gmail account for my personal email address, which I still get comments from. But the rest of that email is my Twitch notifications, my Amazon account, and stuff like that. My business account isn't a Gmail account, and that's why I use that one for my business. I use Outlook for my business because most people that use business accounts use Outlook, so I created an Outlook with the same. It's the same email address as it is here, but I use that one for my business if you're not contacting me about my business. Okay, so I started YouTube when I was 12, 13-ish. Preteen, whatever you want to call it. So, by that time, YouTube isn't what it is today. You can go back and watch one of my older videos. I actually preferred the older version, but when they sold it to Google changed the whole thing and made it more of a search criteria, except for, the personal channel stuff. You're not able to really do that anymore. Back like you were used to, that tells you I've been doing YouTube a long time. And, I actually have an old video that I might post in here. Where you could change your custom colors and have your own custom color scheme, and now you can't really do that anymore. Well, you can, but not like you could before. And that's when I was younger, and that's when I didn't have a tripod. I didn't have a tripod at the time. Didn't know anything about photography, didn't know anything about videography, didn't know nothing. At that point, I just decided to pick up a camera and share my life, and that's what I did for that channel. But it was more of a tutorial, my life, creative things that I was doing on that channel. And let me tell you, the quality of that channel was decent, but it wasn't great. Okay? I lived in a city called Altamont Springs at the time, which is about an hour and a half currently from where I live now. But I had cerebral palsy because this is basically. So now you know my history about YouTube. Now let's move on to the other thing. My medical conditions, why I'm originally in a wheelchair, and such like that. So, what this is basically I was 4 when I found out I had cerebral palsy. I lived in Staten Island, New York. Um, right near a small bakery. Um, in a little town on a street called Amway Road. It's definitely changed since I've been there, according to Google Images. So, I don't know what it looks like now, but back then it was a little tiny town. There was one grocery store at the time, one sporting goods store, one pizza restaurant, and then Wendy's came about, and one pet store. Okay? So, and everyone knew me at that town because, um, it was just everyone knew everybody and everyone watched out for everybody when possible. Okay? So, I lived there till I was about 9. Right, when my dad passed away. My dad and I share the same name. Um, we don't have the same middle name. I don't technically, legally, I don't have a middle name. Um, but we have the same first and last name. And my sons and daughters will have my same, if it's a daughter, she'll have my same last name and have a different first name, and my son will have my complete name. So yeah, that's that. So I've had this condition since I was 4. I've lived with it since I was 4. I didn't get a manual wheelchair till I was in elementary school. My dear Watson, as people would say. I should do this as Draw My Life, and I still might do this as Draw My Life. But, this is just kind of a bio story, and I will do Draw My Life. Because I have the software to do it now. So I will do Draw My Life. So I was living on a road called Amway Road in basically that was Staten Island, New York, is where it was. Amway Road in Staten Island, New York. I lived on the 2nd floor at the time because I was using a walker practically full time. At that point. And then we got me a manual wheelchair for long distances. And then I lived with the walker for about a year after we moved to Florida. I would say not even a year, a year, maybe 2 years at the most. And then that's when I was introduced to my first power chair. When I had my first power chair, it was a portable power chair, meaning it folded up, the battery was removable, and the base with the wheels on it stayed the same. That was my main chair at the time. And then I had the one I showed you guys in a previous video, where I go over the problems with the Pulse 6. There's a video I believe I posted. Maybe I didn't post that one. I could have swore I did. But, there was a video that I might not have posted. I believe I did post it, actually, where I go over the controller and stuff like that. But anyway, even if I don't, I'll go over it with a separate video. So I got another chair because the company I was using at the time, okay, well, actually that was not my first power chair. Somebody actually gave me a power chair in the neighborhood because they saw me walking around in the neighborhood and they thought, I want to give it to somebody because her dad had it originally and he died and she had no use for it. It was sitting in a closet, and then they saw me walking around and they said, let me see if I can catch those people because I feel like you could use this. So I ended up getting that chair, and I used that chair for quite a bit around the house. I didn't use it for school at the time, but that was back in elementary school. That chair actually broke on me because I pulled a wire out of it by accident. Actually, I didn't do it. Somebody was playing because we were kids. You know, we all played around. Everyone that knew me played around in that chair. My friend Megan of many years, she played in it. She drove me around in a wagon in that chair. I'll see if I can find any images and I'll scan them in and I'll show them. I have an old. I don't know if I have it anymore, but I have an old album of all our photos. That she made a scrapbook for me back many years from my. I think it was either Christmas or my birthday or something of one year. And let me tell you, at that time, that girl was practically my sister. She lived at my house 90% of the time. The only time she would leave is for summer camp, and then she would come back and spend a week with me. And her brother used to pick on her a lot. So, and he had, I think he had like a version of bipolar and ADHD. I'm not real sure what he had, but I knew was kind of mean to her and like bothered her and stuff, and I didn't really, at that time I didn't really like the way he was treating her. But anyway, so yeah, I had a neighborhood friend that I started my neighborhood business at the time, which was Megan and Dennis Inc. Megan and Dennis Incorporated, as some people would say. So, which was basically where I would take garbage from door to door and drop it in our dumpster, and I would also do like can removal and do kind of odds and end things like, you know, take people's trash out and stuff like that for them that didn't really have the time, had kids that really could, you know, do it or whatever. Because, see, the reason why is because people weren't doing the trash properly, and I knew a couple people around there that kind of really needed help and had a hard time doing it. So I started it as a business years ago. And ever since then, I've run my own businesses. I've worked for a couple people, but I worked for somebody for about 2 weeks. I worked for somebody for almost a full year as an apprenticeship type program. Almost for a full year and a half or so, I want to say. I worked for them my 10th grade year and part of my 11th grade year of high school. And then after that, they dropped they didn't drop the program. What they did is the program that we were doing where we would go to a hotel, they dropped that portion of the program. Which was International Palms, which was a lovely small hotel. It was probably a little smaller than 10 stories. It wasn't very big. It was probably the size of my current complex, if not a little smaller. It was probably about, I would say, one parking lot. It had one single parking lot, and it was very small. It was probably the size of a Walmart parking lot, maybe a little smaller than that. It was about I think it was about a 2 I knew it was small. I worked in housekeeping doing the tea bags, pens, and paper, which they put in little bags for the housekeeping people. Which was lovely. Everyone there was so nice and everything. And then something about the school's insurance for having kids on the property, whatever. There was some bullcrap shit, and they had to drop the program. But that was a lovely program. And then I went to a place called Marriott, and I couldn't deal with the manager that I had there as a teacher because they wanted to teach me and do an apprenticeship and teach me how to, you know, work at a business and all that. And then I said, I would have given it a whole lot less. I would have given it 1 day. Honestly, I would have given it 1 day. Personally, when I did the interview for it and did all that, she was all nicey, and then when I went to actually do the program, she was kind of mean on me for some reason. And I decided I'm not going to put up with this, and I left. And then I was sitting so that's that. And I've had cerebral palsy since the age of 4. So I've done all these programs, and I found out that I didn't like working for anyone else because I was high-tempered, high frustration with other people, and I don't mind interacting with people, but it's just I like to make my own decisions. I know I'm good at what I do, and just let me do what I need to do. That's the way I've been since age, like, I don't know, age 12. I've been that way. Um, I've been that way for a long time. I was actually, and my dad had his own business, so I saw, and my aunt had her own business at the time, her own cleaning business. So I was around people that owned businesses at the time, and I think that's what really intrigued me to own my own business. And there's a couple perks to running your own business. Or even if it's a seasonal business or whatever, if you're running your own business, there's perks to it, and I will go through that in a separate video. But yeah, that was basically my life, and I was sitting at the computer one day, and I was thinking, I need to make some money, I need to make a decision. What school am I going to go to? What am I going to go to school for? Because at that time I graduated Oak Ridge High School, which is right down the street from me. And then that's when I went into the Marriott program, and then I decided I wasn't going to do that. So after school, after that, I was going to go into the Marriott program. So after I left the Marriott program, I was spending, I could have swore, so somebody walk in. So after that, I left the Marriott program, and when I left the Marriott program, my mom had really been upset that I left it, because she's like, I didn't give it any time, blah, 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 blah. So I decided to leave. I turned in my uniform the next day, because I had to take it home because I didn't dress properly. So at that time, I took my uniform home, changed it out, and cleaned it and gave it back to them, because they gave me 2 uniforms, and then I provided the white shirt and the slacks, which was really nice. I just didn't like working for a big corporation, and I don't like being an employee. I like being the employer. So at that time, I was sitting at home for a while. I've been sitting at home for almost a year. At that, a little bit over a year, and my mom goes to me and says, "What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do for business? What are you gonna do for schooling and whatever?" And she said, "Why don't you do mechanics? You know, you're good with technical stuff." And she says, "Why don't you do mechanics?" So it's like, okay. And then I was like, and then I said one day, I said, what am I gonna do? If there's a way, God, or my dad, because my dad passed away, I figured, my guardian angel, whatever, show me a way. And I'm sitting here on YouTube, like 90% of you guys probably do watching my stuff. All 1,446 views of you since I looked. And I was looking, and I was looking, and I've always been an art person. I took 2 years of art in middle school. I took 1 year, my senior year in high school, I took art, and it was just something that intrigued me, and I'm like, well, I like doing videos, I like capturing moments of certain things, and I'm like, okay, photography. So the following Christmas of that year, which was 2015, I picked up my first DSLR. And this is when I said, okay, let me pick up a high-value camera and learn how to use it. once I learned I was going to try photography out, and I had a natural talent for this because I've had 2 years of past art experience. So when you hire me, you don't just get photography knowledge and, correct this and correct that. I do it with high punch. My style is a well, not on my videos, but if you look at my photos, if you go to my Flickr page, which I'll leave a link to, a lot of my stuff is high color, high contrasty. It's very contrasty, in the sense. Almost like an artsy style type. If I'm doing portraits, I still do the warm color tones and stuff like that, because that's just my style. But once I learned that, I was like, okay, I have a natural for this, okay? So I picked up a DSLR, I watched all the videos I could on YouTube to get as much knowledge as possible in that full year. And then I decided, okay, how am I going to execute this, okay? So it was a little tricky on executing because, meanwhile, my mom and I are on full-fledged disability things. I mean, we're on full-fledged disability with our disability because I can't work a normal I can work a normal 9 to 5 if I'm working for myself. But with the challenges we had right now, and my mom's had some past medical issues, and she can't really work. Well, she can't work for long periods in hot sun, which we live in, or in bad weather for that matter. She has chronic bronchitis and stuff like that, so she can't really do that much. Well, she can do a lot more, but it does drain her. She does a lot more than most people with her condition, let me just say that. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to do this as a supplemental. At first I thought I was going to do this as a supplemental business. And then I started, what are people actually charging for this? So I went to a couple people on our website about charging and being a professional photographer. So I figured, I was using, at the time, I'm not using it now, but at the time I was just getting my first DSLR in that first year, because it was 2015. I don't know, was it 14 or 15? Okay, it was 15. So I got one present that year. It was the Nikon D3000, which I paid too much for. But at the time I didn't know what cameras cost. So I picked up my first Nikon D3000, which was photo-driven. It's a photo-driven DSLR, meaning it doesn't do video. That's another reason why I picked up the SJ4000, because I wanted something small and compact to do video with if I couldn't do it with a DSLR. So I pick up that, they give me the battery, the charger, and the 18 to 55 kit lens. Okay, so I learned as much as I can with that kit lens and the way the camera reacts. I put it in aperture priority mode, which is in most DSLRs nowadays, or aperture value as Canon calls it. And I put it in there, learned what the settings were that the camera was producing, learned how light worked, and I literally did this for a full year. I've learned how light worked, I learned composition through the internet. I just looked at my viewfinder and found certain unique things about different kinds of things. So I did that for one full year, and I'm like, okay, I'm pretty good at this. I know I can make money doing this. I knew I had the ability to make money doing this. So at that time, I was like, okay, I'm going to start making money by doing this. Because meanwhile, I like doing videos. So at the first time when I bought my DSLR back in 2015, I was using a program on the internet, open source program, for you techies out there, which means that it's open source, means it's through the web. Facebook is considered open source. Social media, it's actually considered social media, but it's actually an open source program. Anyway, so I use this program called Sumo Paint, and I'm like, okay. And for a while I used Sumo Paint, and everything I did, I used Sumo Paint. Everything I did for years. I mean, even to the point where I was from high school doing stuff in Sumo Paint. And then I tried to re-pick up Sumo Paint when I got my DSLR, because I was going for a photography class when I was in freshman in high school at the time. And that's where I learned composition, was freshman in high school. That's when we learned composition, color, the way light reacts, and stuff like that. So I kind of had that in my background. Plus, I had the 2 years of art experience through middle school and high school when I graduated from Oak Ridge. And I've had 3 years total of high school and middle school practice. But anyway, moving forward from that story. Anyway, I had a ton of knowledge already about color and composition and how things should be laid out and stuff like that, because that's what art teaches you. And I enjoyed it. I found, until this day, the reason why I do it is I have this old saying, and I use it for my business. It's my business slogan. You focus on the photos and we focus on the day. For me, photographers are focused on the day, what needs to be captured, like such as ring shots, blah blah blah. And the one thing I do is, let's say I'm sitting in a meeting with you, okay? So I'll have my laptop with my digital contract, and we'll be going through it and stuff. And I will be writing notes about that particular client, and then I'll go back and I'll use this microphone, and I'll use my Dragon Naturally Speaking software, which is speech recognition software, and I'll dictate stuff and notes about my client. What I'm actually doing when I'm doing these consultations, as I call them, is I'm not focusing on payment. Well, I'm focusing on 3 different things at the same time. Okay? I'm focusing on, okay, what is this event? How much would I normally charge for this? What is their budget? Where's it at? How many people? That sort of thing. Because the more people you have, the longer it's going to take to do something. And the reason why I did that is because a wedding, for example, is a day between a man and a woman. A day between a man and a woman. My hands are in the wrong place. But here's the man, here's the man, here's the woman, whatever, right? However you guys want to do that. It depends on what side of the street you're on, and I'll explain that. Because the men always face the window, because I'll just do a quick exclamation. The men always face the window, and the woman always faced on the outside, because back then, toilets weren't able to be flushed. So they would throw it out the window, and if it would hit, like if feces and stuff would hit, it would always hit the man, because they said that the woman was too beautiful to be hit with that excrement gross stuff at the time. So they always used to throw them out the 3rd story top window usually. And that's where the men is usually on the side that faces the window and the woman is not. Now that's just kind of an old thing that they used to do back in the day. But yeah, it's about their day, so it's not always okay. Grab a shot of the wedding cake, grab a shot of the flowers, grab a shot of this or that. You know, it's not all about that. It's about grabbing the particular people. Like for this wedding I have scheduled, well, I had scheduled, and then they said, well, we're going to have to reschedule. So I was like, okay. Because it actually allowed me to get more time to get more stuff. So I was like, okay, this is cool. This is cool. So I had my first wedding scheduled this year in October, which has been rescheduled since. But when I had this, this was my first consultation, and most people get nervous about the consultation. The first question I ask is, do you have a location picked out? Do you have like a certain thing you want out of the images? Do you have, this or that? Because if they're looking, because a major thing for this couple that I was working with was their dog and their animals. They both had dogs at the time. This was a friend of mine that I've known for years. We've known each other since we lived in the same neighborhood since my I want to say junior. I want to say. I want to say since towards the end of my junior year of high school, we've known each other. So we've known each other for about 2 years at this time. And she had a wedding coming up with the man that she met, which is kind of funny. Which was kind of cool. And she was a very strong-willed individual as well. She was going to school to be a doctor. She was doing college courses when she was going to high school and all this. So we kind of clicked because we were kind of both what's the word? I wouldn't say into ourselves, but we were more towards ourselves and more towards our self-goals than hanging out with other people and stuff like that. We did hang out with other people, but we were more into getting a career for ourselves, finding a name for ourselves, and figuring out what we wanted to do. So when I had this wedding, when I found out that they were getting married, because we were friends on Facebook, and she wrote a message, and meanwhile I'm starting my photography career. I decided I was going to do it professionally, blah blah blah. And at that time I had my sister's wedding coming up, which I had no money to fly out. She wasn't making any money because she's a manager at a grocery store, so she wasn't really making a whole lot. Plus she just had to work on the job entry, so she was out of work for a while, and I had no time to prepare. So that wedding I had to miss. Okay? Which I wish I would have missed, because the person that did the wedding, there was so many cardinal sins of photography that were broken that day. Just little tiny things that people normally don't focus on. She was a hobbyist, so she didn't really do it as heavily as I did it. And one of the major things is they were under a tree. Now you can do shots under a tree, but you gotta be really careful because it will produce color cast. So you gotta be able to correct the color cast for that image. One of my key tricks to doing it is I was having the person step 3 feet away from the tree and putting them in the center of the tree towards the bark area, and then take 3 steps. Okay? That's my trick. I'm not going to release all my tricks in this video because this is a bias video. So at that time, I didn't have money, I didn't have anything to go anywhere because I'm still on disability. And I didn't have any money because I was paying money at my own place. I had no extra money to fly out, plus I had no time. No time to figure stuff out. So what I did there is I basically went ahead And I didn't. Then later that year, I found out that my friend was having a wedding. She posted something on the computer that she just got engaged, and I said, "Why don't you come?" I said, I think I called her, or she called me, or I sent her a message on Facebook, and I said, "Congratulations, call me." And and she called me. No, I think I said, "Call me, we'll catch up," or something, because we haven't talked for a while previous to this. And I said, "Why don't you bring him over and let me meet him? I have a surprise for you guys." I didn't release anything at this point. I told them that I had a surprise for them for their wedding. And because at this time I was like, I don't have any portfolio work. How am I going to get this? I don't have the money to pay hundreds of dollars for a model for a couple hours. So I went ahead and contacted one of my friends that have kids, and I filmed her. I took pictures of her kids. And then this wedding thing came up a couple months later. And then I told him, I'll schedule your wedding. I'll do your wedding as long as I can use the photos for my portfolio. And it was quite funny because her fiance told me, I said, "I'll do it completely for free." He goes, "No, you're not." He goes, "That's going to take a lot of time." "No, you're not." I said, "Okay, as long as I can use them for my portfolio, and I will come up with the cost for you who really want to do it." So that was my first paid gig, and it was supposed to be in October. And that to me was the stardom of everything. That was the stardom of my Nikon D3000, using it for the wedding, and I'm like, okay, I need this in case, I need this and that and this and that. And I went online and I searched for hours and tried to figure out the best gear and the best price and what I could afford and what I couldn't afford and blah 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 blah. And I went ahead and just threw everything into my Amazon account, and basically went ahead and got an Amazon Prime account because I wanted the 2-day shipping. And I just wanted the 2-day shipping. I didn't care about the digital stuff you get with it. I like the digital stuff now, but at the time I didn't really care about any of that. I wanted the 2-day, 1-day free shipping that you normally get with stuff with Amazon. So I went ahead and did my Amazon account, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. I want this right away. Let me try Amazon Prime. So I scheduled for the 30-day free trial of Amazon Prime. And I said, okay, Mom, let me put this on your credit card. So we put this on her credit card because she had a $300 limit on her credit card at the time. And we're still in the process of paying that off and making it higher. But she needed to build her credit, and I thought this would be perfect. It's $100, blah, blah, blah. So, two $50 bills, blah, whatever. 2 months, $50 bills, done. So I went ahead and did the $50. She also went with more stuff. But I went ahead and did the $100 Amazon Prime account. And I love Amazon Prime. I live with Amazon. And I live looking at deals on Amazon, okay? I found a $78 Dell monitor, okay? Hold on, let me do math real quick. So I found this mount, $95, okay? So we had 2 monitors for $78. And then so we had 2 monitors for $87. So we'll do times 2 equals So that was 156. Okay. Plus, wait, hold on, is that right? That don't sound right. Hold on. Clear it up. $78 plus $78 equals. Hold on. Alright, clear the whole thing. $156 for 2 monitors plus 95 for $251. Okay? And they're both 1-day shipping. So that was a great deal. And then I found Dragon for 20, and then I found Linda's for like, I think I found 55 to 200. Because I thought, well, okay, they didn't schedule on October, and I went ahead and. So this is where my stardom came from, and that's where I decided to start my own business. And I just started buying stuff slowly for my business, and people started giving me stuff because they knew that's what I was into. So they started giving me stuff, and I started growing of what the stuff I was going to do, what I was going to capture, and different things. And it was very unique. And I love photography ever since, and I don't see myself doing anything else. So that's how my life completely started, basically. So I appreciate you guys watching, and have a great day. Bye-bye.